Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mir, ni hao, buenos dias, buenos tardes, buenas noches, what up, though? I just recorded earlier today 3 joints of 3 hours. Actually, in some ways, it's just 2 joints, but the second ones are 2. It's actually just 1 joint that was just had 3 parts. Anyways, in it, I share some things that not necessarily the most linear, succinct articulations. Didn't practice it. Ain't got a lot of time to do all the, pretty presentation type stuff. I share ideas for the benefit of those who are receptive and prepared for that, for whatever benefit that might provide. I ain't no whatever. I'm no better, no worse than anybody else. So my point isn't to say, oh, here's something, but it is something. So I share it. It's different. Than what I am aware many people are talking about. It is difficult. It deals with things that are rather challenging in life and deep-seated that people intentionally avoid. But it's also medicinal to facilitate healing, transformation, and well-being. And that is why I share it. So, and I ain't perfect. It's not a perfect articulation, but I share it as I have it and as I have the availability of sharing it. At the cost of abstaining from doing other things, but that's beside the point. However, what I recognize is, particularly for people who may not see what I'm talking about, have difficulty seeing what I'm talking about, and just see me talking about things that are just uncomfortable or awkward or weird or whatever else. I do recognize, one, there's a heavy, and dos, without seeing the path of healing from that heavy, it can seem like unnecessary heavy or self-indulgent heavy. So whatever that is, whatever the case, what I'm sharing now is light, like an affirmational kind of experience about human condition. Yes, human condition, and about relationship. And so what I referenced earlier today, in terms of the recording earlier today, it talks significantly about relationship between men and women, communication, the abuses, and additionally from both and towards both sides. Again, the purpose is to be aware of it, to minimize it, and to maximize the healing and well-being from it. So all that being said, I'm sharing now an anecdote that's actually positive. It's favorable about what people are doing at this very moment. And to be honest, it's actually miraculous. And it's actually, I think, also significantly overlooked. So it's this. I was standing at a bus stop within the past year or two. And I'm just, singing my joints and observing. Sometimes I just stand quietly and just observe. And I'm standing there. I'm watching so many people in vehicles drive by. And a few people walking by. And there might have been something that specifically precipitates this particular pontification. Yet for the moment, I'll simply say what it is. I look at the people, and what occurs to me is, as much as we hear about challenges and strife and everything else like that, and there is that, and that's not to be pish-poshed, yet amidst that, amongst the 7 billion people, particularly in metropolitan areas, what is amazing is how cats are not at each other as much as an observant exterior species might expect humans to be. What I mean by that, if you look at a bear, a male bear, who is interested in mating with a female bear. So bears, the nature is somewhat different, less social. But when a bear sees a female bear, he's ready. Generally, it's time to make a baby, and he's very forceful about it. And now, if there's another male bear who sees the female bear, then there tends to be that competitiveness, even to death, right there and then. We can look at lions. It may not necessarily be upon sighting them a lioness, because lions are increasingly social. But there is, so the situation with lions is that one male lion tends to have a number of female lions and tends to socialize along those lines. Now, there are occasions when another male lion may come up and try to challenge. So otherwise, two male lions don't mess with each other too much, unless it's a younger brother or something like that, and that's another caveat or whatever. But for the most part, it's just one male lion and the female lion. So my point of all that is to say, when we look at animals, and particularly animals that are predators, there is not a lot of kind, affectionate socializing between the males of such species. And sometimes even between the male and the female, because after there's the occasion of mating, then bye. So whenever there's the male to male interaction, it's hostile, typically, generally, and it's competitive, and it's like all out. It's like high stakes, just off rip, and just seeing each other, contact, particularly when there's a woman right there. So all that being said, when we look at humans, and humans are predators, it is what it is. A predator is no better or worse than prey or herbivores or whatever else. But recognizing that within many species of the earth, it's amazing that human beings, and particularly men, are actually, and specifically in cities, by and large, able to exist around each other without in immediate proximity with women, who all of whom are presumably able at that moment to procreate. That there's just an absence of like all out bloodshed amidst not for poverty, whatever else, but just for the purpose of mating. And poverty may just be a pretense for that. But all that being said, how cats can actually live amongst male cats and tomcats, can tolerate and even appreciate each other's company, and experience and cooperation even, without being all out competitive at each other. So, and similarly with women too. And so I was thinking about that as I was just watching how many people are like in immediate proximity, may not even know each other, may not know each other's names or anything about each other, whatever else, but at the same time not bent on destroying or annihilating each other either, not perceiving each other as like lethal competitors that have to be dealt with exactly at that moment. So that might seem like a very like dismal kind of optimism, but it's actual. It's just like it's an observation of nature, and something that's rather remarkable within the human condition. And so I said that's actually miraculous, how predators can coexist and cooperate with each other, even amidst all the differences of beliefs and class and race and everything else. Be able to tolerate each other's presence and even cooperate with each other, in close proximity with each other, and particularly in the prospect of procreation. So some may rationalize that, of course, because human beings can speak. So much of our interaction is influenced through communication, and so we are called literally to that purpose of communication and reconciliation and cooperation. And so even as predators, we are communicative, or at least verbally communicative predators. That's what many people say. I'm precluded from saying I'm not human, but I am human, are my kinfolk. So, and I have to. It's appropriate for me to provide that statement, but then it's like it becomes somewhat like, again, of like a posturing kind of proclamation. So that's not my purpose for saying that, at least not remotely. How about at least not predominantly, prioritatively, or preponderantly. Anyways, it's late at this point, so I'm just going to keep it at that. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mir, zaijin, adios, te chakaris, SMP na asamuje, kele ufred, one love and peace, happiness, liberation.